Please be seated. The court is now in session. Today we will hear the statement of sufferings hands by 4 civil parties as we indicated yesterday. Mr. Dujpari, could you report the attendance of the parties and individuals to today's proceeding? Dujpari, Mr. President, for today's proceeding, all parties to discuss are present, except the National Lead Co-Lawyer for civil parties, who is absent without given any reason. As for Nuon Chie, he is present in the holding cell downstairs, pursuant to the decision of the trial chamber in relation to his health. As scheduled, the civil parties to testify today are TCCP 100, TCCP 149, TCCP 170, and the fourth one is TCCP 117. The 4 civil parties are waiting to be called by the chamber. Thank you. President, thank you. Court officer, could you invite the civil party TCCP 100 into the courtroom? President, good morning, Mr. Civil Party. What is your name? Civil Party. Mr. President, my name is Nu Hun. Thank you. Question. When were you born and where is your place of birth? Answer. I was born in Stratco village, Kampong Sang commune, Phra Sadai district, Prey Veng province. And I am indeed 79 years old by birth, but I changed my age and in my card I am 74 years old. Question. Where do you currently live? Answer. I live in Texas, in Houston, in the United States of America. Thank you. And what is your father's name and your mother's name? Answer. My father's name is Nu Chan and my mother's name is An Pliu. Question. Are you married? Mr. Civil Party, please observe a small pause until you see the red light on the microphone so that your voice will go through the distribution system for all parties and for the public, and in particular it will go through the interpretation system so that your voice will be interpreted simultaneously into English and French. So please observe a slight pause before you respond. Question. Are you married? And if so, how many children do you have? Answer. My wife died in 1998 and I have 3 children. Thank you, Mr. Nu Hun. As a civil party before this court, the trial chamber will give you an opportunity to express your statement of suffering and harm inflicted upon you materially, physically, and psychologically, and which are the direct result of the crimes occurred and which led you to become a civil party in this case. Those crimes have been charged against the 2 accused, namely Nuon Chea and Khieu Samphan, and which occurred during the Democratic Cambodia regime from the 17th April 1975 to the 6th January 1979. And you may proceed with your statement. Please pause, Mr. Civil Party. The National Lead Co-Lawyer for Civil Parties, you may proceed. Mr. President, for the Civil Party Nu Hun, Lawyer Somsukun will be assigned to put the questions to him, and for the other civil parties, namely TCCP 149, will be questioned by Chiet Wan Lee. As for TCCP 170, the civil party will be questioned by Chiet Wan Lee as well. And lastly, for TCP 117, the civil party will be questioned by T. Srina. Thank you, Mr. President. President, thank you. Mr. Nu Hun, you may now proceed with your statement. Mr. Nu Hun, thank you, Mr. President. My name is Som Sukung, representing the Civil Party Nu Hun, and Lima Wien is my international counterpart. And before I put the questions to Mr. Nu Hun, I would like to present some information derived from his victim information form. Mr. Nu Hun was recognized for his application in case 002 as a victim of forced evacuation. In his application, that is D22/1962, and that application has been handed through the civil party already, and the information in that information form, does it reflect your true experience? Answer: the information in the form is correct and true. Thank you. Mr. President, Mr. Nuhon is living with his family in the United States, and I would like to express my thanks for his traveling from abroad to testify here today. And I have some questions for you. When you were evacuated from Phnom Penh, President interrupts. Council for Civil Party, please specify for which civil party that the assigned lawyer will question first before the civil party makes his or her statement, or which civil party would make the statement first before you put the questions to him or her. As I understand, we gave the floor to the civil party to make the statement, but it seems that now the lawyer for the civil party puts the question first. Please clarify the matter. And secondly, Mr. Civil Party, could you please clearly pronounce your name? Is it Hon or Hun? Civil Party, my name is Hun, Nu Hun. President, because to me, from the pronunciation by your counsel, he pronounced Hon, not Hund. It seems that he doesn't know you clearly. But Mr. President, for the civil party Nu Hon, the assigned counsel Sukung will put the question to him first. For the second and third civil parties, they would make their statements first and would be questioned by the assigned counsel. And for the last civil party today, that is TCCP 117, that civil party will be put the questions first before he or she makes the statement of suffering. President, thank you. And LITCO lawyers, you are reminded that you should have informed the chamber first of the process of this question first and statement later. Otherwise, it seems that you are now leading this proceeding and not the chamber. Samsakung. Mr. Nu Hun, I have some questions for you. Can you describe to the court what you encountered during the evacuation from Phnom Penh? Answer. Evacuation from Phnom Penh was a new experience that I never encountered before. There was a huge crowd of people en route, and it was in the middle of the dry season, and the weather was very hot. People were shocked they did not bring much belongings with them. Some of them did not have any thongs or shoes, so they resorted to using banana stalk for their feet. Some of them lost their children and families, and the situation was chaotic. We did not know where we would go and obtain some food. And there were flies. Flies were everywhere like a crowd of bees. That was the time that there was no public hygienic toilets. So we had to resort to going through the forest to relieve ourselves, and we saw waste were everywhere. Some people died and left along the street, and those who were sick could not seek any help from anyone, and we were forced by Onka to just keep going. So some of us would have to leave their sick family members behind. My family also went along National Road number 1 toward Prevang province and Svay province, and some of us crossed into Vietnam. The main challenge was the lack of food and the lack of medical treatment. We did not know where to go for food or medicine, and the money we had was no longer used. And the rice was very expensive, and it was measured in a milk can. Everybody faced the same situation during our forced evacuation from Phnom Penh. Question. Also in relation to the evacuation, did you lose any family members? Answer. It was unfortunate for me as one of my daughters went missing. My younger-in-law, who did not have a daughter, asked for my younger daughter to stay with them. So during my evacuation, I went my way and my younger-in-law went a separate way. And for that reason, she went with my younger-in-law's family. My younger-in-law actually had 4 children. So together with my younger daughter and one elder mother, there were 8 of them all together. I met a distant relative in 1979, and was told that during the evacuation they went to Kampong Speu. I received information about my daughter, that is after the liberation in 1979, and at that time we conducted a religious Buddhist ceremony to pray for those who went missing. We held it near the Odisha market, and we kept looking one another for the missing family members. And there was an aunt who told me about the story of my younger in-law, and she was in the same cooperative, and she said that one day one of the children was sick, and that child was given a rapid drop pellets. And there were militia who were standing nearby, And for some reason, at night, the entire family was taken away and executed, but the lady did not know where they were killed. That was the information that we learned from that woman, that the entire family was smashed that night because of the word that they said about the rabbit drop pellets. Thank you. Mr. President, with your permission, I'd like to show the photos which have already been submitted to your honor regarding his daughter. The EN is 00540951 in Khmer language. President, yes, you may proceed. Mr. Nuhon, in this photo, can you tell the chamber which one is your daughter? Answer. This is the photo of my daughter who went missing in 1975. She was wearing a flower shirt. Question. When she was separated from you during the evacuation from Phnom Penh, how old was she? Mr. President, please observe a small pause, civil party. Answer. She was around 9 or 10 years old at the time. Question. When your daughter was separated from you, what happened to her or to your younger brother-in-law and his family? Answer. As a human being with conscience, no one, no father or mother or grandfather or grandmother who doesn't love his or her child. And when the child got sick, of course we would be anxious to find a doctor for her treatment. And the situation was indescribable when my daughter was taken at night and smashed. I'm still thinking of why she was killed and how she was killed amongst with her nephews and cousins. My mind is still unsettling, although I have other children, but it is still my greatest regret for losing my daughter. And my wife, when she was leaving, went to seek help from a fortune teller, just in case that one day we would be able to meet her, but she disappeared forever. When we separated, she was around 9 or 10 years old, so if she's still alive, she would know where to return. But I am sure that the entire family at the time, that is the family of my younger brother-in-law, was killed. No one survived. And as a father, this is the saddest moment. If my child gets sick, of course, I would try to seek the best doctor for the treatment. and she went missing without food or medical treatment, and she was gathered at night and executed. Question: what was your feeling when you were separated from your children or family members and did not know what happens to them? Answer: it was the feeling of sadness, sorrow and regret, and we try to find all sorts of means in order to reconcile my feeling, the image and the feeling of my child or my relatives dying still plays vividly in front of my eyes every time I recall it. We were told that the revolution means to rescue the country and to rebuild the country, but it did not happen that way. Question: when you knew about the disappearance or the death of your daughter and the death of your younger brother-in-law and his family, how did you feel when you first received the news? Answer: as I just said, the feeling was unsettling, and allow me to add that I have my younger brother whose entire family was also lost. They worked in the treasury department in Svay Rieng, and my younger daughter and the children went to return to their native village, and in 1978 they were evacuated to the west, and the entire family later on disappeared. I received no news at all. That is, the mother, the 5 children, and in fact the father died in Svay Rieng province immediately after the liberation. So this is an additional burden on top of the news about my younger brother-in-law. And that is in addition to the loss of our property and our house in Kampong Sang and Presdak district. That house was dismantled completely by Angkar. And it was the area that the Khmer Rouge force came to control earlier, as it was near the Nea Luang area. So the families from there had to evacuate from their native villages to live nearby Nea Luang or to went further to take refuge in Phnom Penh. So that house was completely dismantled, and another house was burnt to ashes near Chaba Amper Market. It was a wooden house with a zinc roof, and it was hit by a shelling, and it was burnt to the ground, and all the main documents were burned, including my birth certificate and the birth certificates of my children, the medical records and other important documents. Even at the moment, I cannot recall for sure the dates of birth of my children because I do not have any birth certificates to refer to. And the precious photos of my family members were all gone. You can imagine how unsettling my feeling was when those things happened. And the loss that I experienced, not the only loss for me, but Cambodian people also experience a similar loss. The separation and the loss of family members during that year of 1975.
Council, thank you. Now, today, can you express your feeling when you come to testify before the court? Response. Mr. President, Your Honors and Council, today I am trying to concentrate to respond to the question as well as to testify to the court concerning the suffering we have sustained. And I think that I am very fortunate to have an opportunity to speak in front of the chamber, and I am grateful to the chamber for granting me the opportunity to address the chamber on the issue concerning my personal suffering. Question concerning a reparation. Do you intend to request to the chamber to award any reparation to you in your capacity as the victim of the alleged crimes? Response. I have thought of it thus far that if Cambodia or the United Nations or international community think of awarding any reparation to Cambodia, to the victims, I also understand that there are so many victims. Virtually every Cambodian family was the victim of the regime. I could not imagine any financial reparation for the victims, and I believe that even if the financial reparation is awarded, it will not be able to offset the suffering we have sustained. I only hope that I have an opportunity to speak to the chamber as well as to the Cambodian people in general about my suffering, and I only hope that we will be able to find justice through this chamber, and everyone has been waiting for justice for a long time, and they hope that this victim will be handed down to the victims so that the soul of the victims, those who passed away, those who died during the period, as well as the family members of those who died would feel appeased with the justice, and I hope that this will be the way to heal the suffering of the victims. Council, I do not have any further question for you, but I would like to ask whether or not you have any additional information you wish to entertain the court or to enlighten the court. You may do so. Response. I have always been concerned of the time that the court will spend on adjudicating the case, and I would like to actually take this opportunity to ask the question to the co-accused. I have only a few questions to put to them directly, and with the leave from the chamber, I would like to now pose the question to the co-accused. The President, you may proceed. You are entitled to put the question to the co-accused. However, the question must be put through the President of the chamber, and I, in the capacity as the President of the chambers, would refer the question to the co-accused to respond to that question. You may proceed. Thank you, Mr. President, and your honors. My first question to the co-accused. I have followed the proceeding at the Khmer Rouge Tribunal, and I have noticed that the Khmer Rouge Tribunal has always refused to respond to questions. And if they answered or responded to the question, they normally said that they knew nothing of what had happened during the period. So I have been wondering to myself that why these leaders responded that they knew nothing. They only said that they tried to defend the national interest. But did they know that the population of Cambodia at that time decreased year by year? So I would like to ask a direct question to them. Did they know that the population of Cambodia decreased, and where were they? Where were the leaders of the Democratic Cambodia? When one leaders of the Democratic Cambodia were taken away and executed, there was no replacement of the people who were executed. So I was wondering where the leaders of the Democratic Cambodia were at that time, and they only said that they wanted to develop Cambodia, they wanted to rebuild the country. Why? Where were they when all of these atrocities were committed? My second question, they have always said that they want to salvage the country, they want to have restored the country, and of course victims so far have already told the court about their suffering and harms they sustained during the period. For example, their property were confiscated and destroyed, and belongings such as papers and certificates were taken away, and they also appealed to Cambodian people overseas to return to the country, and then they were eventually killed. So I have always wondered what was the rationale behind their argument that they wanted to rebuild the country, but instead they executed the intellectuals. How could they develop a country if they executed the intellectual, if they killed their own people? I don't understand the reason behind their decision. So I would like to put this question to the leaders of the Democratic Cambodia, and I hope that they will avail of this opportunity to respond to my question. And finally, I have one final observation. These are my final observation for the chamber. I thank you very much, Mr. President. The President, Mr. Nu Huan, you should try to make your question brief and succinct, because you have described your situation, and your question seems to be mixed up. So your question should be straightforward and succinct so that the accused can respond to your question appropriately. The two questions you have just asked appears to be rather confused, and probably the accused might not be able to respond to it appropriately. Civil party. During the course of the hearing thus far, the co-accused have always said that they knew nothing of what had happened during the Democratic Cambodia period. They were not responsible for those activities. However, some leaders of the Democratic Cambodia disappear mysteriously, and there were no replacement for them. And if they were executed, did the Khmer Rouge leader knew who committed those crimes, who actually took them for execution when they were holding power at that time? My second question, the co-accused also asserted that they had sacrificed their personal happiness to safeguard the interests of the country, to protect the nation, but they had killed many Cambodian people, including the intellectual as well. So how could they claim that they defend the national interest, they protect the country, so on and so forth, if they killed their own people, including the intellectual? The President. Thank you, Mr. Won. I now refer this question to the accused, Khieu Samphan, first, followed by Mr. Nguyen Chia. Mr. Khieu Samphan, can you respond to the two questions posed by Mr. Nu Huan? If you can, you may proceed. Mr. Khieu Samphan. Mr. President, Your Honors, and everyone in the courtroom, and Mr. Nu Huan, you lost your beloved daughter. You lost your brother-in-law, and you lost other family members. This is another episode of a tragedy happened to a family. And this is another tragedy in addition to the tragedy encountered by other civil parties who have come to testify before this chamber thus far. I would like to apologize to you that during the Democratic Cambodia period, I was not aware of the suffering, the great suffering of Cambodian people as you have been describing. Once again, my sincere apology to you and to Cambodian people who suffered. And now I would like to respond to your question. For your first question, you say that the Democratic Cambodia leader denies knowing what was going on during the Democratic Cambodia period. I wish to inform you honestly that I did not know, and the reason why I did not know what was going on then, because I was not the effective leaders of the regime. I was an intellectual, highly educated intellectual. At that time was considered to be somebody of not a firm stance. They only wanted us to know about good things, about progress in the country, and about the atrocity or bad thing that had happened in the country. I was not informed of. This is my honest response to your first question. Secondly, in response to your second question, I joined the Democratic Cambodia virtually by accident. And when I joined them, the reason behind my decision to join them was nothing but to help the country. I wanted to mobilize the national forces in order to fight in the war at that time. As you may be well aware, Cambodia at that time was plunged into war, and you must have been aware of the situation of our country at the time. So when I joined the Democratic Cambodia, I did not actually join them to kill Cambodian people or innocent people. I could not imagine doing that. And the murderer who killed your daughter, your brother-in-law, or other relatives, I strongly condemn them, and I want them to be brought to justice. We had to find them and bring them to justice. I would like to respond to your question as I have just responded. I thank you, Mr. President. The President. Thank you, Mr. Kyosampon. How about Mr. Nguyen Chia? Would you wish to respond to these two questions? Mr. Nguyen Chia, you may proceed. Mr. Nguyen Chia, my respect to the President and your honors, and my respect to the civil party. I do not recall your name, and my respect to the national compatriots who are either participating in the proceeding or observing the proceeding both inside the country and outside the country. First of all, I would like to reiterate once again the role and responsibility I was assigned during the Democratic Cambodia period. I would like to clarify it as follows. During the period of the Democratic Cambodia, I was assigned to be the Deputy Secretary of the Communist Party of Cambodia, and my duty was I was in charge of propaganda and education in the party, and I was also in charge of the chairman of the committee for the People's Assembly during the Democratic Cambodia period. As for in the executive branch, I had no power whatsoever. So what had happened during the Khmer Rouge period, a certain thing I was aware, but other thing I was not aware of. I am not trying to evade justice, or I am not trying to evade my responsibility, but I am telling you the truth. And I, of course, was one of the leaders of this government. I am not rejecting my responsibility. I shared the responsibility as the leaders of this regime, but my role, as I told you, that I had no role in the executive branch of the government. In the party, I was in charge of education and propaganda for the internal party members, and in the People's Assembly, I was in charge of the chairman of the committee of the People's Assembly. But then the Vietnamese troops came to invade Cambodia before I chair this National Assembly. And once again, I would like to express my deepest condolences to your relatives, your daughter, and I also express my condolences to my family members who also lost their life during that period. The President. Thank you, Mr. Nguyen Chia. Mr. Nu Hun, if you have any final statement you want to make, you may do so. Mr. Nu Hun, my apology, Mr. President, and I would like to take this final moment to address the Chamber that I am grateful to the United Nations and the government of Cambodia for endeavoring to establish the tribunal. I know that the tribunal have encountered challenges and difficulties, but I am very pleased to see the existence and operation of this court. And I am also grateful to the international community, friends of the court, who have been supporting this tribunal. I hope that this tribunal will achieve its mandate, and the court will be able to bring justice to the victims. And I am one of the victims who are waiting for the justice. And I hope that what I have contributed will be of assistance to the court. And finally, I have a short poem, a short a few words to remind Cambodian people, those who have survived the notorious regimes. Do you still remember the suffering of that we all had to go through during that period? And with permission from Mr. President, I will proceed with these words. The President, you may proceed. Personally, I think that the organization, the so-called organization at that time, was a brutal organization. They wanted Cambodian people to live in freedom, in a sovereign state, in territorial integrity. You wanted people to have clothes to wear, shoes to wear, and a cap to wear as well. But the fact was that this policy does not apply to everyone. In other words, there is no one size fits all in their policy. They design the cap, one side of the cap, and then they force people to actually wear that, and that does not fit with the people. Now we cannot actually cut our feet to shoot the shoe, but there should be the other way around. At that time, they employed the dictatorship, authoritarianism. They forced people to follow their policy. When people were not happy, they did not enjoy the freedom to express their unsatisfaction of what they have had in life. So it was impossible to make the people to be in line with what they want them to be. And in addition, at that time, the Khmer Rouge, the so-called organization, raised the slogans which was impossible to accomplish. For example, the Great Leap Forward. Also, they want this country to develop in a great leap forward that they cannot take too many steps at a time. And I did not really know how they could achieve this great leap forward vision if they actually did not have anything. Instead, they killed the people. And if I, for example, believe in their visions that it was good, but I believe that it is something that will actually will be counterproductive. It would not lead to the development of the country. According to what they did, it was impossible for the development of the country. So what was the reasons for their course of action? What they did was impossible for the development. Now they killed the intellectuals. Intellectuals were the future of the nation. They would be the pillar of the nation. And if you kill the intellectuals, what make this country developed? It is impossible. In the 1960s, for Mr. Kyusampon, I read news and I heard from words of mouth that he was a clean person. He was not a corrupt official. He was intellectual. I saw that he was the one who defended the country. But I did not understand why he was among a rotten apple in a basket. In Cambodia, there is a saying that goes, if a rotten apple is among other apples in the basket, then the whole basket of apples is considered rotten. And I feel very sorry for you for having participated with them. Finally, I hope that the court will adjudicate on the case based on the evidence as well as the testimony of surviving witnesses and civil party so that they will derive a justice for the victims and the justice for the leaders of the democratic Cambodia as well. I hope that the court will be able to bring justice for all and achieve their mandate. I conclude my statement now, Mr. President. Thank you. The President. Thank you, Mr. Nuhon. Now I hand over the floor to the prosecutor to put the question to the civil party. You may proceed. Mr. Simon Kieng. Thank you, Mr. President. And good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors, and esteemed colleagues in the courtroom, and good morning, Mr. Nuhon. Mr. Nuhon, I am representing the prosecution. I have only a few questions which I would like you to enlighten the court based on the experience you have come across. Now, my first question for you concerns the journey you made, which you also told the court earlier, that you left Phnom Penh for Praveen province at that time, which was your hometown. When you were leaving Phnom Penh for Praveen province, were you instructed to head toward that direction, or you just went there at your own will? Response. On this particular point, my family and I was heading toward the eastern side of the city, and at that time I asked the soldiers where I was supposed to head for. Then the soldier responded to me that I had to keep on walking. Actually, it took me approximately a month or so to reach that destination. And we were actually waiting at that time upon hearing that Mr. Khieu Samphan would be coming to restore the country and he would reorganize the country also. So we were heading toward that direction based on what they asked us to do. And we actually ran out of rice and food stock as well along the ways. And I also lost one daughter as well. And there were two Khmer Rouge soldiers who were in charge of guarding the trucks who were not allowed to cross the river to the other side by a ferry. These two Khmer Rouge soldiers, upon seeing the suffering of my family, they prepare food for our family at the time.
Allow me to interrupt. Your response is already good enough for my question. Allow me to move on to another question. As you stated before this court, were you escorted by the Khmer Rouge? I mean, you, your family, and those who walked? Answer. In fact, no. In fact, we just move along. The Khmer Rouge has their respective duties which were beyond our understanding. Question. You stated that you saw Khmer Rouge soldiers along the road that you traveled. Is that true? Answer, yes, it is. Question. Also, in regards to your traveling, what did you observe the situation of the travelers? Did you see people died along the road? Answer. Some people died and some were about to decompose. So I did not know when they died actually. The situation was confusing along the national road as it was fully crowded. Some people went up and down looking for their family members, and some were looking for food for their family. And by the time we arrived in Net Luang, the one with some belongings were not allowed to cross the ferry. They have to leave their vehicles behind, and they could only walk onto the ferry with their carry-on belongings. And as I said, we did not have any food, so the two Khmer Rouge soldiers helped us and gave us some rice before we crossed the river by ferry to our native village. Question. While en route, was there anyone attempting to return to Phnom Penh? And if so, was that person allowed to return to Phnom Penh? Answer. Since we reached Chaba Amper, Nerul Pagoda, and Champa Pagoda, there was a writing on the blackboard that for those who were public servants or police officers or military officers, so register their names so that Angkar will reorganize our country and you shall be returned to Phnom Penh. So some of us went to register their names, and they were happy to know that. But for me personally, I thought that could not be true, and awaiting us ahead was only the date. Question. Why did you think that by registering the name and that the person would be returned to Phnom Penh, and for yourself, why you thought that only death was awaiting for those people? Answer. At that time, the law in Cambodia was rather strict regarding certain types of documents, namely the communist document, and I myself had the opportunity to read some communist doctrines, and based on my experience and on the documents that I read, the situation was not good at all. I noticed that some Khmer Rouge soldiers wore uniforms and some did not. And of course, we observed that for travelers who were spotted as Lunar soldiers were taken to one side. So to me, that was an indication of danger ahead. And I told my children to stop calling us by Papa or Mama, but rather than by the Khmer words father and mother. So from that day on, they changed themselves and they did not call us by Papa or Mama, and that we had to adapt ourselves to the situation. Question, you said that the people were moved aside because they were suspected of being Lunar soldiers, and did you know what happened to them? Answer. At that time, there were lots and lots of people, and those people who were close to us, they went to look for food or water, and when they came back, they saw those people were being taken away and killed. So I learned of the news through the people who were staying nearby us. Questioned. You also stated before the chamber that you tried to walk along the road and you heard that Kisapon would return to organize the city. Where did you hear the news? Answer. At that time, my family was near the Champa Pagoda with some other family who were traveling toward the Preveng province. Those people knew Kisampon well, and they passed on the news that Kisampon would return to Phnom Penh and that he would invite the former civil servants to return. And the daughter of that family was about to give birth, but the husband was not with her, as the husband was stationed at the Kampong Chnang. Question, I might have my last question for you. When you reached your native village in Preveng province and upon your arrival, were you organized to be placed in a particular group or in a particular cooperative? Answer. When we reached our native village, the Khmer Rouge came to search our belongings. They all unpacked our bags so that they could see what we had with us, any medical equipment, for example, medical equipment or syringes, then would be confiscated. But they did not take away the medicines. And I only stayed for 1 week in the native village, because upon the liberation, the people who ran away from the village returned, and then our names were registered and sent to another village which was about 3 kilometers away. And a week after, and it was around May, people called some names for the study session at the President office. Myself and my uncle, who was an engineer, and his younger brother, who was a soldier, and another person who was also a soldier. They went there, but they only stayed there for one night and they were taken away. Only I and my uncle, the engineer remained. And when we actually went for the study session, I brought along some medicine, and I was told by the villagers that there was no need for me to bring along, because Onka would have everything, including the medicines. When we were there, I saw about 300 people all together, including those soldiers from Nhat Luang and Phnom Stang Trong, and it was fully packed. And there were a lot of bed lies on the mat. The situation was miserable. We had to sleep on the ground, and when it rained, we had to sit up, and there was no food for us except the red corn. And as for the salt, as for the food, there's just a watery soup and a little bit of salt. So the nutrient was insufficient for everyone, and we were emaciated and we were about to die. Thank you, Mr. President. I do not have any further questions for this civil party. And Mr. Nuhon, I thank you very much for your time to participate in the proceedings of this court, and that may contribute to ascertaining the truth and the justice for the victims and the accused, as you stated this morning. I'm grateful, Mr. President. President, thank you. The floor is now given to Nuon Chia's defense to put questions to this civil party. Sonarun. Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors, and good morning, everyone, and good morning, Mr. Nuhon. My name is Sonarun, Defense Counsel for Nuon Chia. I only have a few questions for you this morning. When you were a student, what was your level of education? Answer. In 1953, I graduated from the primary school, and then I went to study at a college in Svay Rieng. And upon my completion, then I passed the exam to become a worker and employee in the health department. Question. When you work for the Ministry of Health, what year was it and what was your title? Answer. It was from late 1958 to 1975, and I worked in various locations. First, I was for the anti-tuberculosis department in Svay Rieng, Prey Veng, Tak Kaip, and Kondal province. Later on, I was transferred to the anti-malaria department, working in Kampong Thom province. which was not yet part of the Previhi province. And when I ended my mission there, then I was at Bong Khmum district in Kampong Cham province. Then I moved to another department for the wound treatment near the Laos border. Council interrupt, Mr. Civil Party, I only wanted your title while you work for the Ministry of Health, but you already responded to that. Allow me to move on to my next question. Before the evacuation from Phnom Penh,
ដំណាក់កាលទី1លោកបានទៅស្នាក់មិញបានលោកជំរាបលោកបានជម្រាបទៅខាងព្រះញ្ញារួចហើយ
You replied to the prosecutor that you stay at a Priasdaj district in Prey Veng province. Is that correct? Answer: Yes, it is.
មុននឹងលោកបានចលៀសពីភ្នំពេញ
Question: Before your evacuation from Phnom Penh on the 17th April 1979, says the council, and when the Khmer Rouge entered Phnom Penh, what was your observation of the situation? Please make it brief. Answer: as I stated before this court, the situation was confusing, it was crowded, people went everywhere from the north to the south direction. We were not instructed to head to any particular direction by the Khmer Rouge or what we should bring along. The situation was very confusing. Thank you. Question: when the Khmer Rouge forces entered Phnom Penh, what uniform did they wear and what kind of weapons did they carry? Answer: I only saw the black uniforms, that is a black uniform with car tire thongs with AK-47 rifles and a beret. Question: after you arrived in Priasdaj district, Prey Veng province, were you evacuated for the second time by the Khmer Rouge? If so, where did you evacuate to? Answer: no, I was not evacuated elsewhere. I remained in the same cooperative. Question: this morning you stated before this court that in your family you had a daughter, young daughter, who was about 9 or 10 years old, who died. Can you tell us when she died and where? Answer: as I restated, she died in Kampong Speu province, but I cannot recall when she died, as I was only informed by a woman while we held a Buddhist ceremony near the Odisha market. Question: you were separated from your daughter before she died. Is this correct? Answer: yes, it is. Question.
លោកមិនដឹងថានាងស្លាប់
So you did not know the reason for her death. Is that
លោកបាន
correct?
ដឹងទេ
Or did you know it?
ខ្ញុំបានជម្រាបជា
Answer. I already stated this morning I did not know how she was killed.
ទី6គ្រួសារ
I only knew that the entire family was gathered up during a night, and I did not know how they were killed or where they were killed.
សុំសុំលោកជម្រាបតុលាការម្ដង
Question. Can you tell the court again,
ព័ត៌មានដែលលោកដឹងថា
based on the information that you learned of the death of your daughter,
អ្នកណា
from whom did you hear?
អ្នកនោះបានមកប្រាប់លោកថាកូនលោកស្លាប់លោកអត់បាន
And
សួរ
did the person tell you
នៅកន្លែងណាទេ
how she died or where she died, or did you ask those questions?
បាទបានជម្រាបពីមុនរួចមកហើយ
Answer. I already stated before this court I was told by a woman who was in the same cooperative as my younger in-law, and I met her during the Buddhist ceremony.
គាត់នៅក្នុងសហគមន៍
She said she was from the same cooperative in Kampong Speu province, but I did not know from which district or commune. And she said she knew my younger brother-in-law well, that is a Pichongkal, as they lived in the same cooperative, and who was the former deputy director of fertilizer in Tukmi district. And it was my aunt of my wife who spoke directly with the woman, and I was relayed that information regarding the death of the entire family of my younger brother-in-law.
អរគុណចុះចំពោះ
Question.
គ្រួសារប្អូនស្រីប្អូនថ្លៃរបស់លោកបានស្លាប់លោកបានជម្រាប
You stated that the entire members of your younger brother-in-law died. Do you know the reason why they died and where did they die?
មូលហេតុដែលស្លាប់នេះខ្ញុំបានជម្រាបរួចហើយ
Answer. As I already stated,
ប្អូនថ្លៃខ្ញុំបានសុំ
when my younger
ធ្វើការនោះ
in-law
ប្អូនឈឺ
asked for the permission to return from his work site to visit the sick daughter, and the daughter was given the rapid drop pillet, and he said, with such a rapid drop pillet, how could my daughter be treated and recovered? And he did not think that it was a serious statement that he made, but it was heard by the militia. So at night they came to gather everyone from the family and taken away and killed. But I did not know the place that they were killed or when they were killed. And my daughter also died together with the members of their family. Question. You knew or you received information regarding the death of your daughter and the death of the family members of their younger in-law. You only knew about them after 1979, that is after the arrival of the Vietnamese troop? Or was it before? Answer. It was after 1979. Thank you. And Mr. President, I have no further question for you. And thank you for your responses to my questions. President, thank you. The floor is now given to Kills and Pawns team. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. And good morning, Mr. Nuhun. My name is Kung Samon, Defense Counsel for Kieu Sampon, and I have some questions for you. You stated before this court that you knew Kieu Sampon during the 1960s, that you heard about his reputation at the time. My question is the following. What did you know of the role of Kieu Sampon during the 1960s? Answer. First of all, I knew he had a newspaper called L'Observateur, and under the Sangkum Rias Niyom regime, he was a people representative in the National Assembly, and at some stage he became the secretary of the Commerce Ministry. I heard of his reputation by words of mouth that he was a clean person and he was anti-corruption. And I also heard a rumor, although it's true or not, I only heard of what people said, that one day when he was the Secretary of State of the Ministry of Commerce, a capitalist bought a brand new Mercedes and left it under his house with the car's key, and upon his return from work he asked whose car it belongs to. Then the one who worked at his house said this person gave it to him, but then he asked his driver to return the car, although it is true or not, it's beyond my understanding. Thank you. Question. Can you tell us about the works of Akir Sampon during the 1960s? That is in his capacity as a public servant, and that you just stated as the State Secretary of the Ministry of Commerce. What kinds of political issues that he faced at the time? Answer. I did not know the details regarding this matter, as I did not follow this matter closely. I only heard what I just told you. Question. Did you know that Khieu Sampon remained in Cambodia during the 1960s, throughout the 1960s? Allow me to rephrase my question if you do not understand it. What I want to know is, did Khieu Sampon disappear from the public or from other forums, for example, various meetings during the 1960s, and if so, when? Answer. Counsel, I did not have sufficient information regarding this matter. I only learned it from the newspapers, and I could not recall the exact period of the time. Question. Did you know that Khieu Sampon disappeared from Cambodia during that period? Answer. Through the information on the newspapers, we learned that Khieu Sampon left Phnom Penh for Maki's forest, and there was nothing else. Question. You referred to Maki forest. What was the Maki forest? Answer. It is my understanding it is the area under the control of the Khmer Rouge. Question. Did you know when Khieu Sampon returned? Answer. I did not know it clearly. Because after the country fell, everything was confusing, so I did not know the details of his return. Question. You gave some examples concerning one rotten apple would rot all the apples in the basket. Can you give us the explanation of this phrase? Whom are you referring to when you refer to the apples in the basket? Answer. Khieu Samphan himself acknowledged that he was an intellectual and he was regarded as a soft-stance person. And this is just the limit of my understanding. But there is a Khmer proverb that one rotten apple would rot all the apples in the basket. This could mean that he was a clean person, a non-corrupt person, and how come he could go and live with the black-hatted groups of the Khmer Rouge? So for that reason, we could infer that he would also become a rotten apple. Although even now, Khieu Samphan still claims that he is a clean person, a non-rotten apple, but based on the saying, he's also part of the rotten apples in the basket. Question. Did you know the reason why Khieu Samphan had to force himself to flee into the forest, and as you said, the Maki forest? When you asked the question to Khieu Samphan said it was kind of happened, kind of incidents that he joined the Khmer Rouge movement. And for you yourself, did you know the reasons via media or press or newspapers or through your friends regarding the disappearance of Khieu Samphan during the 1960s?
Well, I did not know much about that, but I heard from the news that he disappeared mysteriously from Phnom Penh, but I did not know the reason for his disappearance. Thank you, Mr. Nuhon. Mr. President, I have no further question, and my colleagues have a few more questions to ask. Thank you.
Oui, monsieur.
Yes, Civil Party. I have a quick question regarding what you said about information that you had received from people who knew Khieu Samphan and who allegedly said, I don't know if it's possible to locate this moment in time, but they apparently said that Khieu Samphan would return to reorganize the country. You said that after 17 April, you had received word of Khieu Samphan possibly returning. So could you provide us some detail about this and tell us who gave that information to you?
At the time, some of my family members who worked in the provincial hall of Prey Veng, and he were actually got the information about that. I actually did not understand the situation back then very well, but according to what he said, he asked us to wait for that situation to happen. And of course, when the Khmer Rouge forced people to leave their homes, they also said that we would leave for a few days, say for 3 days or so. That corroborates with what he told me as well. That's why I believe that that could have been true. That's why we were waiting for that situation to happen.
So you were waiting for Kyo Samphan's return to come into Phnom Penh? Is that what I should understand?
I did not know whether or not Cambodian people in the whole country would wait for the arrival of Mr. Kyo Samphan, but people around the camps where I actually were in, they were actually waiting for that situation to happen, but I did not know. I cannot say for other people across the country.
Thank you. You also described a scene during which you wanted to take medicine with you, and that was not possible. That was refused to you. And since you had worked at the Ministry of Health, I don't exactly know in what capacity, but I still would like to understand how you perceived this prohibition to take medicine with you, and then the administering of medicine that was not medicine, corrects the interpreter. So how did you perceive this situation? You were forbidden from taking medicine that could have been efficient, and then you were told to give medicine that was not efficient.
At the time, I paid greater attention to my job. And along the way, people were actually trying to exchange for medicines because they wanted medicines for their sick children. We could actually have with us some medicines, but not every medical facilities, because, for example, syringe and others could not be hidden. They were confiscated, and they thought that certain modern medicines were considered to be medicine from imperialist countries, so they were subject to confiscation. So they only administered the so-called rabbit dung pill for the sick people. And as for the the IV for people, actually they did not have any precise medicine when they inject into the patient. Normally I see this orange color fluid in the Miranda bottle, and they inject it to the people. I did not know whether or not they had any particular medical and scientifically proved the medicine or not, and of course a patient had to risk their life getting injected by this sort of medicine. And for this situation, we were wondering what our country would be ending up in, because we were wondering to ourselves as a medical personnel ourselves.
So 2 questions to follow up what you just said. First, you said that I was mainly focused on my work. Can you remind us what your work consisted of before Democratic Cambodia?
After I was released on the 27th of October 1975, following my release from the detention center in Presdach, and I returned to Prey Veng province, and my main job was farmer. I plow the field and cultivate crops. I worked along with the base people, plowing the rice field, transplanting rice and cultivating rice. And in 1978, they actually mobilized youth to the mobile group. So they assigned me to carry water to the dining hall. And in that dining hall, actually, there were approximately 500 people who ate over there communally. And I had to carry water to the dining hall. At that time, we had at that time, they mobilized people in the mobile unit in order to do different tasks that they were assigned to. So I was all alone carrying water to the dining hall, and after carrying water, I had to do the cleanup as well at the dining hall.
Thank you. Now, returning to this issue of medicine, is it fair to say that this choice that you had to make between the various forms of medicine was an ideological choice?
I am of the view that, well, actually, I am not sure whether or not it was a ideological thing. At that time, the ANCA, the organization, said we had to be self-reliant. We must not rely on the imperialist materials. So this was actually the order, the sentiment of the ANCA. And as for the sick people who are being hospitalized, these were not of any help at all to the sick.
And my last question now, and did you ever notice that people who are higher up in a hierarchy were treated in the same way as the people who were around you at your level? Was there a difference in the way that people were treated? Was this selection between what is known as imperialistic medicine and medicine to be used was applied to everyone, or were there differences in the way this medicine was administered to these people?
What I witnessed concerning the administration of medicine, normally we had medicine from France, and those who had access to modern medicine from France, they had to be extra cautious when using or administering this medicine. In other words, they had to hide it from others, from the Khmer Rouge. And but as for the traditional medicine made of the herbs and things like that were quite common for other patients in other places. But as for modern medicine, it was quite limited to only certain individuals who could manage to hide them from being seen by ANCA.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you.
The President. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nuhon. The statement of suffering has now come to a conclusion, and you are now excused from the court, and I believe that your testimony and statement will contribute to ascertaining the truth, and I thank you very much for your cooperation, and I wish you all the best of luck. You may now return back home, and court officer is instructed to coordinate with Vesu unit to arrange the transport of the civil party back home. And the chamber will adjourn for 15 minutes, and we will resume at 11. The court is now adjourned.